discuss the importance of treatment in a personal injury case. Uh, every personal injury case generally has three components. First component is the liability, that is, who's at fault. If you're a driver of a vehicle and you're rear-ended, someone blew a red light and hit you, someone made a left turn into you, then liability is generally in your favor. So that's checkbox number one. Uh, the second checkbox, in many ways, is completely within your control. You're the client. That would be the treatment for the injury that you state that you have, right? That's number two. Number three is the amount of insurance. Again, that's generally not within your control. Although in a prior discussion, I discussed the value of having supplemental uninsured motorist coverage. So in many ways, you as the injury victim can hedge if you own a vehicle against being involved in a case where the amount of injuries or the amount of coverage, I'm sorry, that you have uh, in terms of the person that hits you is insignificant, and you're able to meet or have a larger sum of insurance, right? So that's something somewhat in your control. But the second thing, the medical treatment is completely within your control. And it generally goes like this. There's a motor vehicle accident. Oftentimes, you're going to sustain a pain in your neck, your back, or an extremity the day of the accident, sometimes the next day. I know personally when I had a significant injury, the first part of my body that really hurt was my neck and my back. And then after that, I then sustained pain in my extremity. It's given the significant injury that I sustained, right? So a lot of times, your body parts are going to start hurting in different orders, right? You know, uh, one of the things that's important, and you know, you got to keep in mind is when valuing a case. And again, I'm not talking about a leg off case. I'm not talking about a case where you lost a finger. I'm not talking about a case where you broke your femur, broke your nose. I'm talking generally the neck and back, the soft tissue accidents, which are probably 97% of all motor vehicle, probably more than that, 98% of all motor vehicle injury cases, right? I'm talking about those cases. So one of the things that a jury looks at, a judge looks at, and the insurance company that's evaluating your claim looks at is, did you seek treatment immediately, right? So that's a checkbox right there. Did you go to the hospital? In a more modern era, did you go to an urgent care, right? If you went that day or the next day, that's a checkbox that's completed, right? The second checkbox is, the pains that you're treating for. Did you make a contemporaneous or an early complaint about that? So do you go to the hospital or the urgent care and make a complaint that day of your neck and your back? That's important. And the third thing is after that's done, you then need to start what they call conservative treatment. So that's physical therapy, chiropractic, or acupuncture. Now, realistically, uh, physical therapy or chiropractic, provided the chiropractor offers physical therapy, that will generally satisfy the people that are evaluating claims, right? So that's important. And then prior to or after you start that, you would need to be followed up by an internal medicine doctor, physiatrist, orthopedist, so that way you get monthly or bi-monthly, treatments, correct? Or evaluations. And then another important part, an absolutely critical part, is the MRIs, right? So if you're making complaints of neck and back pain, an MRI scan of those two body parts is important, right? So once all of that's done, and if you do all of that, at least in the initial 30 to 60 days, you've painted a significant picture of an accident that caused injury. Injury was immediately spotted. objective evidence of the injury in the form of, you know, motion testing, qualified testing that your healthcare practitioner performs, as well as the MRIs. All of that put together creates an objective picture for the injury that you said you sustained. And importantly, continuing with your physical therapy 1 or 2 times a week for, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, for a significant period of time also shows the severity of the injury. That is, it's not getting better. Another important aspect is that with the treatment, if the modality, that is the physical therapy, is not helping, then it's important for the physician to introduce other, treatment options for you that might be a little more invasive. In the general scheme of things, if there's a herniation within your neck or your back, that could be attributed to the accident and the pain is not going away. There's numbness and tingling. The next step in the treatment is generally, some type of epidural shot, which is pain management injection, which is supposed to lessen the pain, help you gain motion, and reduce some of the numbness and tingling that often results from damage to your cervical and lumbar spines. Uh, Certain people have more facet-based problems. Those are joints that are within your spinal system. The facet is a pain receptor. Sometimes you may not have a disc type injury, but you might have a facet-based injury. Certain injections or treatment for that would be the facet block injection and then radio frequency ablation. That generally will kill the nerve, which is thought to cause some of the pain. But that kind of treatment is it's generally accepted and it's necessary because look, if you are in an accident and you have hurt your neck or back and you don't go to get emergency care with, in a short period of time, people look at it and they say, well, is this really a legitimate claim or did this person go see a lawyer 2 weeks after the accident? And then the lawyer said, oh, you better get treatment immediately. And that's a valid concern. You're sitting on a jury. You're listening to someone, discuss how the accident changed their lives, but they didn't get treatment for a month. It really just, you scratch your head and you're sitting, you're one of the 6 people in the box and you're like, is this legitimate or is this person trying to pull a fast one on us? And look, you got the wrong 6 people in the box. They may not be that sympathetic to you. You might be the best, most, you know, genuine person. You might have really gotten hurt, but they're looking at you and they're like, I think this was an attorney setup. So that's really important. Gaps in treatment, and you got to remember in the state of New York, your personal injury case was not settled immediately. It can go for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. If you all of a sudden decide to stop treating, and then you go 2 to 3 years, and then you finally, when the case is getting ready for trial, you go back for treatment, it doesn't look good. Jury's going to look at you and say, wait, so this is a really bad accident. You went to the hospital, you had 6 months of treatment, jury would probably learn no fault cut you off because that is something that could generally come out during trial, but jury's going to say, but wait a minute, you have major medical, you live in New York, everyone has health insurance. You mean to tell me you couldn't afford to, use your major medical to go at least once a month, once every 2 months for a follow-up? That looks very, very bad. Then even worse is when someone like waits for a year or two, and then all of a sudden, and they're now getting a whole series of epidural injections. And then the trial happens 6 months later. Jury's going to look at you and say, really? I don't think so. Now look, you may find jury's going to be sympathetic, right? But you as an injured person, your goal, right? You know, is your goal is to get better, obviously, right? But in terms of painting a picture that, is most credible to six people that would be evaluating your fate, or to the insurance adjuster that's looking at your claim. There's just certain check boxes that have to be met. And if those check boxes aren't checked, you create, significant gaps that could really hurt your case. So just something to be mindful about as you navigate the pitfalls and booby traps, as they say, of a personal injury case. Hope you found this helpful. Thank you.